Hi guys, you've been Central here and welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be finally rounding out the E-Space trilogy with Warriors Gate. Warriors Gate is the final story in the three-part mini-series within Season 18. It's also Romana's last story, and coming to the time of Tom Baker's final story as its final season. So, getting into this at the beginning, yeah, it's an interesting story. The beginning is pretty interesting. They're kind of like bobbing around E-Space at the beginning, and we meet this other humanoid mining expedition, and then this a creature who's time sensitive comes into the ship. And then they come, obviously, as I said, he comes into the ship and he gives them a message, and the message is not to trust the three men who are coming to the ship, or the TARDIS, and these three men who are from the other spaceship that's stuck in E-Space are sort of smuggling on like illegal aliens who are time sensitive, as we come to find, and they're using them to try and get the ship back out of E-Space. It's not worked for them, and they've stuck, and so now they're trying to find other methods, considering their one time sensitive, which they had working, was the one who escaped and warned the Doctor, Romana, Kanan, and Adric. So the Doctor leaves and he goes and does his own thing. Romana then goes with the three men and gets captured by them as they make her the new time sensitive that they try and use. And yeah, and then Adric just does his own thing. He's a bit annoying, so no one likes him, so they kind of just ignored him for this, I find. For most of it, he doesn't do very much. But yeah, and then it kind of all wraps up. There's a lot more plot, and it all wraps up with it at the end with Tom Baker and Romana meeting up again, and then eventually parting ways forever in terms of the televised stuff. Yes, this is a mixed one for me. I think I love the fact that Romana does a lot in this story. In the full circle, she didn't do very much, and I was kind of upset because I kind of enjoyed her doing a lot in most stories. Again, State of Decay, she got more representation, but Warriors Gate, Tom Baker might as well have taken a holiday. He doesn't do much at all. The first part, he's with Romana, and he does that in the TARDIS, but then when he goes and leaves to follow the time sensitive, so yeah, Tom Baker goes and does his own thing, and then Romana becomes the main focus of the story for a little while. I mean, she has the cliffhanger at part 1. I mean, Tom Baker kind of comes back at the end of part 1, I think it is. It may be part 2, and then I think it's part 1 cliffhanger. And then he kind of does his own thing again at the start of part 2, with Romana still being quite forward, which is the main kind of character in this. In terms of the actual villain, I think this is an interesting one for villains, because normally there's even if there's a plot twist with, such as the full circle with the creatures, in the fact that the creatures weren't actually villains and they used to be those humans in Full Circle, or the ancestors and State of Decay, where they are just straight out villains. This one doesn't really have a villain as such, because at first we think, well, this alien's come in and he's just told the Doctor that and Romana don't trust these scientists or expedition people or whatever, and they believe him and they don't trust him, and obviously they use Romana as a time sensitive, so you see that they clearly are bad, until you then see when the Doctor was, and he finds what these time sensitive people were like before, and they were basically kings and enslaved other humans and people like that. So then you start to question, well, who was actually the bad guy here? Although, yes, they're being enslaved themselves, they did the same thing to others. So is it really a bad thing? And I like that idea, and also I think it was smart because the main time sensitive, who I think is Bogart or something like that. But don't quote me on that. But he realizes the error of his ways. He can go back into the past and see kind of what his world was like beforehand, and even shows the Doctor it. And you can see that he genuinely realized what he'd done was wrong, and that his what he'd done with and what his research done was wrong. And I like the idea that at the end of this story, when Romana stays behind to help, that she will help them not become better people, being a Time Lord and helping them become better, but at the same time, also, just being genuinely just making them better people, and it's always quite good. Now, the one thing I haven't really picked up on in this one is Adric. Yeah, I mentioned it once, twice. You can tell in this story, similar to State of Decay, really, they don't really want him in here. I think it's not really until Keeper of Traken where he actually becomes a proper companion, in the sense that in State of Decay, although I didn't really mention it all too much, he wasn't focused in this story. He wasn't in this one. He just kind of got in the way, he muddled in the way kind of thing. He stumbled into it. But in this one, it's the same. In this one, Romana seems to have to look after Adric a lot. And you can tell both Lalla Ward and Romana as the character don't want to do this. Lalla Ward's not wanting to stay anywhere near Matthew Waterhouse, and you can see it in the acting. She's very not bothered when she's around him, but when she sees the Doctor, she's like, yeah, let's do these scenes type thing. He basically, for the whole stuff, he walks around, he finds where Romana's being captured, he meets Romana, he then claims that he saved Romana even though she was like leaving anyway, he just stumbled in at the same time. Then he kind of just stumbles around a bit more, and then, gets back into the TARDIS when the Doctor tells him to, and stays in the TARDIS until the end of the story. And then at the end of the story, we see him saying that we might be going into end space again, and that's the end of the story. He does not need to be in this story, other than he was in State of Decay, so it would be a bit weird if he just wasn't in it. That's literally his only reasoning he's in this story. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all to say. The only thing I can really say anymore about this one is K9. K9, unfortunately, I find K9 was kind of abused in the classic run a lot. He was fine in season 15 when he was introduced in Invisible Enemy all the way to the end of it. But when Mark II came in, which is the K9 which took it from the Ribos operation all the way to the Warrior's Gate, which is where he leaves, as well as Romana, he gets a couple of beatings. He gets possessed in the Armageddon Factor. He loses his voice partway through season 17. In season 17, he gets blown up in Leisure Hive, loses his head in Full Circle. His head gets used as a weapon in Full Circle, and then he gets hit by some time wind in this story, which really messes him up a lot. And it's quite funny because you've seen these workers who are K9's following them get really irritated by K9, and K9's confused about everything, and they did it in quite a jokey way, and it was a fun way, but maybe not the best send-off for K9 considering he did leave at this point. So it was kind of annoying for that. But, as promised in, I believe, my State of Decay review, I will rank all three of the E-Space stories from my opinion, worst to best. So, in last place, we have Full Circle. A really good story, it's a fun little story. However, and as I said in my review, it's a pretty big rip-off of Face of Evil. So if you want to see Tom Baker performing a little bit better, I say Face of Evil is probably one of his better performed ones. You want to see better plot and a better villain overall, Face of Evil would definitely be a better choice than Full Circle any day, which is why it's at the bottom. But still a good story for anyone who hasn't seen it, so you should still watch it. Then we have Warriors Gate. Obviously, just reviewed this one, so there's not very much to say other than, again, it's a pretty decent story. I think season 18 gets a bad rap for not little to no reason. I think most of its stories are pretty decent. Warriors Gate epitomises these ones being decent. But last, we have Terrance Dicks's own State of Decay. I think if it wasn't for Keeper of Traken, State of Decay would be tip top of season 18. It's a really good story. And possibly, Logopolis possibly battled it. But it's a really good story. Romano's great in this. Tom Baker's great in it. I mean, obviously, if you want to see me talk about more, then go to watch my review. But that is the best, in my opinion, of the East Base. But that's just been my opinion. So, if you have enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, go watch another one. But yeah, see you.